Good morning students, I am Shishpal Chauhan and this is video 1 of the poem Childhood, and the childhood has been written by Marcus Nathan. This is the poet of this poem and this is meant for the students of class 11. And see the picture of the poet Nathan, and nothing is clear about his birth and death, we don't know, and it's very difficult to find out about his biography and about his birth and his death. More things may be found, but we don't know about his death and birth. Okay, let's proceed further. About the poem, let me tell you something about the poem. And the poet seems to feel nostalgic about his childhood period of life, and then himself proceeds to find out answers to his question. First of all, let us come to know about the word nostalgic. What is nostalgia? Nostalgia is the feeling when a person feels homesick, when the person feels that something has gone from, when we recall in our memory lane, we recall our past experience, past memories, and sometimes we feel sad and pleasure also, happy also. So both the feelings are there, sadness, happiness. We become nostalgic about our past. So this is the pronunciation, nostalgic. These are symbols of pronunciation. I have phonetic symbols. I many a time told you. So the poet feels nostalgic about his childhood period. Childhood period is very dear to all. Everybody who has grown up now, who is adult and middle-aged or old fellow, old people live in their past, and they may be recalling, while sitting alone, they may recall about their past events, about their past experiences, past memories. They love their past. So childhood period of life, that is very dear to all. Here the poet is thinking about his past, and he is not recalling the memories, but he putting a question to himself. When did his past go? When did his childhood go? When did his childhood go? He put that questions, and then he tries to find out answers for himself. And he comes to know that every human being on this earth has to undergo the process of change in his mind with the passage of time. And this wisdom dawns upon him. He comes to know that everybody on this earth has to pass through this process of change, of growth, mental as well as physical growth one has to undergo. So we cannot avoid that. And if we lose our childhood, we come to know other things. Our knowledge is increased for other things. In this way, sacrifices and price has to be paid for one thing or the other. The first phase is called the childhood. The first phase is called the childhood, and although the poet does not name the period in which he steps in after completion of his 11th year, yet we may say that it is adolescence period. So the poet in the poem, in the first stanza, he just mentions 11th year. He poses question, was that the day when he completed his 11th year, right? And he just mentions, but we can add more things to it by drawing inferences, by drawing meaning, deriving meanings from that. And after, it is supposed that after 11th or 12th year, or even 10th year, adolescence period starts in human mind, which is very crucial. And this period is very crucial because every boy and girl has to pass through a change, undergo a change. That is very disturbing for them, and they have physical, mental, and harmonical changes, biological changes come in the body of the boy and the girl. They feel somewhat awkward also. So it is the phase of life in which certain physical, harmonical, physical and this is psychological, not physical comes here, and this is psychological. Psychological means you can say mental. Occur in one's personality. After this phase, a person steps in adulthood. Then comes adulthood, and in which a person develops an independent thinking. In adulthood, the person becomes independent in his thinking. He can take his own decisions. He can form his opinions, his own opinion about others. Now he is no more. Now he no more relies upon others' opinions and thoughts. He can take his own decisions. Now rely means depends. He does not depend on others to take decision, and others' decision may be wrong, others' opinion may be prejudiced about others. So in this way. So that was the background for understanding the theme of the poem. Now we proceed further to, first of all, we will read the text of the poem, but I won't tell you the meanings, explanation of the text when I read these 4 stanzas. After that, we shall take up one by one. Every stanza will be taken up one by one, and I'll give you the detail of that. So, was it the day I ceased to be alone? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be? Was that the day? Next stanza. When did my childhood go? Was it the time I realized that adults were not all they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love, but didn't act so lovingly. Was that the day? When did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine, to use whichever way I choose, producing thoughts that were not those of other people, but my own and my alone? Was that the day? Third stanza. Where did my childhood go? It went to some forgotten place that's hidden in an infant's face. That's all I know. So in this way, 4 stanzas were there, and now we shall take up every stanza one by one. So this is first stanza. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be alone? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be? Was that the day? Word meanings are ceased means stopped. I ceased to be means I stopped to be 11, means I completed my 11th year. And then line to line explanation. The poet asks himself as to when his childhood left him. It means he wants to know that particular moment of life when he lost his childhood. So in these 2 lines, let's have some view. When did my child, the question is clear, simple. When did my childhood go? The poet wants to ask to himself. When did he wants to ask himself as to when his childhood disappeared from him. When his childhood went from, when he felt that his childhood had gone, when his childhood disappeared from his conscious brain. Was it the day I ceased to be 11? Then he puts another question. if it was the day when he completed his 11th year, he wants to know from himself if it was the day when he stopped 11 years of old, means when he completed his 11th year of age and stepped into 12th year. Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography? This is another question. Then he further makes a question to himself. If it was the day when he came to know that hell and heaven are not found on any place, they are untraceable in geography books, in the maps of the world. Because he had been taught by people, by parents also, by people also, that hell and heaven are places. As we used to listen to stories in our childhood period, that hell is a place. If we do bad things, evil actions, we will go into hell. And if we do good to others, then we will go to heaven. So the question is that the poet wants to get that realization. If it was the day when he could not find hell and heaven in geography book, was it the day? And therefore could not be, was that the day, could not be means he came to conclusion that these are not to be found in world's map, and on the earth they cannot be found. So let's explain again. The poet asks himself as to when his childhood left him. It means he wants to know that particular moment of life when he lost his childhood. Then he supplies answer to his question in the line, was it the day I ceased to be 11? Right? And he means to say that it might be the day when he completed his 11th year of his age. First realization comes that it was the day, perhaps it was the day when he completed his 11th year. And in a way he stepped into his second phase of life, which is called adolescence. And in a way, after 11th year, the poet stepped into his 12th year, right? And it means he stepped into adolescence period. He does not mention about the term adolescence in the poem, but we derive this meaning from the lines, from the 11th year. But we may say that a child enters this phase after the completion of the 10th or 11th year of his or her age. This is common knowledge. We all know that this adolescence period comes when the child grows, steps in 11th year or 12th year. In other words, in other two lines, the poet thinks about another possibility. So, was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography? Let's see. He asks himself if it was the day when he understood that there is no place like heaven or hell on this earth. He could not find such places in geography books. So it was just realization that came in poet's mind that hell and heaven are no places. These are states of mind. One can make his life hell by thinking about negative things, by doing evil actions, by developing negative habits, negative notions in his mind, negativity in his mind, jealousy, dishonesty, prejudices, and revenge. All these things join together and make the life of a person hell. So we should avoid negativity in our life. If we want to make our life heaven, if we find this place heaven, that is in your mind. So when you think about good things nature, you feel happy when the rainbow is there in the sky, in the clouds. When rain pours in, you feel happy. When clouds are there in the sky, you feel happy. When you see any natural beauty, you feel happy. When you see a child smile, everybody smiling, you feel happy. You also give out your smiles on the lips. You also have a smiling face. So you always think of positive things, that you believe in God, you believe in religious way of life, and that leads to you towards goodness. So everything that is positive leads you to heaven. So this was the realization that hell and heaven cannot be found in books, cannot be found in your maps, right? So that was the realization came, that dawned upon the poet's mind. They cannot be traced in the world's map, hell and heaven. In his childhood, he was taught that there are places like heaven and hell, but now he has realized that there are no places like them. In the last line of refrain, he lays stress on the thought that his childhood was lost when he started understanding that there are no places like heaven and hell on this earth. So, in a way, refrain is a poetic device. I'll discuss in the second video also, and it may be in question form. Okay. About refrain, these are refrain, if I want to show you. Let me show you. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be? Was it the time I... These are answers. And this question and this question. These are refrain. These are called refrain in poetic language, poetic devices. So, in a way, the poet puts question. This may be 2 or 3 lines. It may be a phrase. And the poet set out the theme of he mentions the central idea or the theme of the poem in that very line. And in every stanza, every stanza opens with such refrain. So, in detail, some more detail I'll give you in second video.